Okay, on to our second match of our recent league. This is trying out Ground Seal in our sideboard, as we've been seeing in a lot of new Miracles decks. Sorry, not new Miracles decks, new Storm decks. Round one, we played against Miracles, Caleb Durwood, and unfortunately, despite the fact that I typically call it a good matchup, we lost. So we're going to lead on, we open a pretty decent hand, we're going to lead on a Preordained, Scry Petal to the bottom, Duress to the top. We're going to Brainstorm next turn. And obviously against another blue deck, opponent leads on a Tropical Island into Delver, telling us this is almost definitely Rug Delver. Or possibly... Okay, so Rug or Bug. Here we're going to pitch back Infernal Tutor and I think Ad Nauseam. I think we should need to keep the Underground Sea here, so I think we need to keep the third land. We need to put back the Tutor and the Ad Nauseam. The Ad Nauseam we will want to get rid of, as it's typically a much riskier card against Rug. They clock you fast, they have lightning bolts, they're quite... you don't get to play a long game against them, you don't get to keep your life total high. And we can see straight off the bat he flips the Delver. So we're quite glad that we did that. Because our life total is going to start going down very fast very soon. It's possible, or maybe so if we card Nauseam next turn, so we Duress, Preordain, Dark Ritual. No, so we don't build Threshold fast enough to be able to cast Ad Nauseam next turn. And he's going to Spell Pierce our Preordain. This punishes us a little bit for not playing out our second land when perhaps we should have. So we're just going to play out a fetch and pass. We're going to play out a fetch. We're maybe going to try and bait a Stifle. We already have a third land, so we're not super stressed if he does try to Stifle it. Okay, and we draw Brainstorm. And we, of course, find the Ad Nauseam again. So pitch back Tutor and Ad Nauseam again. It's just the same as last time. And I think this time we probably want to grab a red source. Unfortunately, it's going to get wastelanded away. There we go. We've drawn the Stifle. That's fine. So we probably want to Duress this turn, though we probably should be playing out the land first. Actually, no. So we don't play out the land this turn because we don't want to be exposed to wasteland. We're fine with the days because we're probably going to Therapy name Force of Will, which we're going to assume is going to be his last actual piece of reasonable interaction there. And we're going to assume he won't have found another Spell Pierce yet. And I know Rug has sometimes played Snare in the past, but we're not going to worry about that too much. We can see him trying to build Threshold by wastelanding his own wasteland. Oh, great. Okay. This is awkward. So we're going to Therapy cast Force of Will. Therapy for Force of Will. and he may or may not daze. Now, if he dazes, I think we just have to now we just have to pray. So we're going to try to go for it anyway. So we're going to play Underground Sea, cast Dark Ritual, Infernal Tutor, grab Cabal Ritual. We're already in a bit of a crap spot anyway. We really need a red source. We're going to go to main phase number 2 to let that blue expire, just in case. Just in case his last piece of interaction was, say, a Spell Pierce. And we can see he's F6'd. So we're going to tutor. We'll grab the second Cabal Ritual. We'll cast 2 Cabal Rituals. One will bring us to 5 mana, one will bring us to 8 mana. The problem we have now is we can't build enough Natural Storm just to go straight for Tendrils. So we're actually 1 Storm short. So this will be Storm 7. Tutor number 2 would be Storm 8. Tendrils would be Storm 9. We'd leave him on 1. Only dealing us 6 damage a turn. So we're just going to try to go for Ad Nauseam. This is really unlikely. So we're looking better. If we can hit a... I don't want to Past in Flames now. Oh. Okay. So we'll stop at Brainstorm. And we're going to pedal. And if we hit Infernal Tutor, or Past in Flames or Tendrils, we win and we find Past in Flames. So the way this is going to work is we're going to cast out all our petals. We'll cast our Cabal Ritual, so that we're going to have, it'll be 9 mana, including the LED. We'll crack the LED for red to empty our hand, flashback Past in Flames, we can flashback all our mana and cast our tutor. We can afford to duress here just to see what he actually had. Okay, and he did have Force of Will, but obviously no blue card to back it up. So I think he actually would have been better off not casting the Daze earlier on. If he didn't cast the Daze, he actually could have beaten us. Because we would have taken Force and he would have been able to actually effectively Daze another spell later on. So our sideboard for this plan is we cut Ad Nauseam. Our sideboard for Delver is we cut Ad Nauseam because they clock us too fast. We bring in Empty the Warrens instead. Delver decks often struggle to deal with a resolved Empty, and we bring in a 4th Therapy. We're not mucking about with any removal or anything. We just want to basically keep the same core that we're used to. We're quite well equipped to deal with counter magic and the like. And we're going to keep that second land. Now playing a Volk leads me to believe it's possibly a Red Blast. It's going to Brainstorm. So we're lucky it's not a Red Blast. We now just have to hope that it's not he doesn't find a Daze. And unfortunately he does. It's possible we should have waited an extra turn to play out that Ponder. Just so we can keep our cantrips online, although it may have walked into something like a Spell Pierce. Okay, so we're going to play out the Scalding Tarn and we're going to Brainstorm. And there we go, there's the Spell Pierce. So we might as well go ahead and grab another land while we can, while Stifle's switched off. And I think we can actually, we would have been okay with a Wasteland off the top there, just because we already, if they then played out a Wasteland and wasted our C, we'd be okay. We already have the second C in hand. Now, fortunately for us, our opponent still doesn't have a threat. Now, I feel like, yeah, I definitely should have played out my second land here so that we could beat a Spell Pierce. So this is very poor on my behalf. I am not considering Spell Pierce anywhere near enough. To be fair, that's 2 Spell Pierces in his first 11 cards, 10 or 11 cards. So it's not necessarily something I think I should be playing around that much, but it would have been sensible. So we're just now making land drops. This means from his side of the table, we no longer care about waste at all. The worst thing for us is the fact that he's now going to have a threat and he's going to be able to start clocking us. And we still haven't managed to find interaction. Okay, so Tendrils probably isn't the worst draw here. He very likely has Surgical, so we might not be able to make good use of the LED. However, if we can draw something like a Past in Flames, along with the Petition, we're starting to look pretty good. Or even without, if we can build Threshold and maybe just take take the worst of the counter magic from his hand. So this is looking pretty rough now. We're just not finding anything. We're a bit sloppy in our earlier turns, and we're now getting punished for it. So it's going to cast Bolt, untap, cast, untap, crack in for 4 with Mongoose. Okay, so we can turn on Threshold here. So our first Cabal Ritual won't be thresholded, our second will be. Okay, and so if this Cabal Ritual resolves, and he doesn't have Surgical Extraction in hand, or Force of course, we actually win. Okay, and he Spell Snares. I don't know why he didn't just do that to begin with. Okay, so we're just going to run back the same list. There's no reason to change anything. He doesn't have access to Leovold, so we don't need Abrupt Decay. He doesn't play Artifacts, so we don't need Hercules. He's not combo, so we don't want Fluster. And I don't like running Xantid Swarm into a deck filled with 3/2 flyers and lightning bolts. So this here hand looks pretty strong. We've got Empty the Warrens in hand. We'd be happier if the Cabal Ritual was, say, a Dark Ritual, and we could probe into something like a Lotus Petal, which would give us a turn 1 win. I think what we should have done here is led on Underground Sea and a Cabal Therapy. Because what I'm going to do here is probably a bit of an error. So I'm going to grab a Badlands, tipping him off that we probably need red for next turn, and I'm going to cast Stifle. So if I led Underground Sea and took Stifle, I feel like it's less likely to get us wastelanded on turn 1. Now, we're not cared about the Flusterstorm. We can play for 6 copies of Fluster with Lion's Eye Diamonds if we need to. Okay, we draw Dark Ritual, so we're going to play out the Underground Sea and just hope we draw a red source next turn. He is, of course, going to play a Delver here. Okay, and fortunately we just Lucksack it and we hit a land. So we'll go fetch up a Volcanic Island. We're going to cast a Dark Ritual. He probably won't want a Daze here. And he won't want a Daze for the rest of it. So we're going to hit Storm Count 5, including the copy of Empty itself, giving us 10 goblins. And we have a Therapy in the bin, so we might want to flashback the Therapy, probably to name... I think I end up naming Rough Tumble here. I suspect naming something like Ponder or Brainstorm would more likely be correct, or possibly even another creature. If I was going to flashback Therapy at all, I think maybe it would have been better just to crash in, just to hope to fade the 2 turns that we need to actually get to actually bash in for lethal. Okay, we see our opponent has a Nimble Mongoose, which is actually a bit of a problem. Well, actually, maybe not. It shouldn't be a problem. It's going to wind up being a problem as we go on. The reason being, our opponent is going to have blockers. So we're going to bash in for 7 or 8, depending on if our opponent blocks with the Nimble Mongoose. And that's actually going to drastically shorten our clock. Or sorry, drastically lengthen our clock. So shorten our, reduce the number of goblins that we're going to have access to. Okay, so at the moment we're crashing in for 6 next turn. Bringing our opponent to 7. So we're still winning this race as it is right now. So our opponent probably wants to wasteland us off black here. Yep, there we go. Just to make it harder for us to win unexpectedly. Okay, and we'll ponder. So our opponent now has 2 more turns. We're going to pay for the Flusterstorm here using an LED. We can afford to burn the LED. We still have 1 in play. So they can't be surgical. They can't be particularly easily dealt with. I doubt he brought in something like Ancient Grudge or anything like that just in the hope that he could snag an occasional LED. It'd be very atypical. Okay, so we want to keep all of those cards. We want to draw the Ponder next turn. We can probably afford to shuffle away the Cabal Ritual, to be honest. We might just want an Infernal Tutor. Okay, and unfortunately that changes the clock for us quite a bit. So instead of now winning this race, we've now got... we're going to attack, go down to 4 goblins. And our opponent will go to 3 life. Okay, so we're going to shuffle that. And find another land. Alright, so bring our opponent to 3 and then 1. And then we're going to be left with 2 goblins. So we're going to make exactly that trade. Our opponent's only really got 2 cards in hand, one of which is Surgical Extraction, which he can't afford to use now. So we're just going to bash in. And we're going to be left with 2 goblins in play, 2 to 3 copies of Cabal Therapy. Just remembering that we can flashback the 2 goblins to flashback Cabal Therapies. He can't surgical and he can't fetch. So he's looking pretty rough right now. Alright, we'll fire off a therapy. We got no good reason not to. I think Flusterstorm's our scariest card at the moment. I don't know why he keeps dazing us. I don't think it's a particularly useful thing for him to be doing. So I almost named a surgical there. We don't even need to name force. We've got force switched off. I guess it's a card he could have, but it's not actually a card in the matchup anymore. I think I forgot that it costs 1 life. So from where we are right now, our opponent. Okay, so he's now got Hooting Mandrills online, which means that he now gets to be the aggressor. Fortunately, we know what his hand is, and if we draw an Infernal Tutor, we win. And we hit the tutor. So we can't do it this turn. We don't quite have enough mana. We can do it next turn. Which basically just guarantees us a win right now. I don't think he has any outs from here. Because we'll just take away whatever he draws with a Cabal Therapy. And then we'll tutor for Tendrils. Just remembering that we have 2 therapies, so one will see his hand and the other will kill him. And he just casts a Nimble Mongoose. So we had good odds of drawing a tutor there, by the way, a little bit earlier. We'd seen 20-some cards with no tutors, so it was only a matter of time before we were likely to see it. We currently have 6, 5, we have 8 mana. Well, we don't need to muck about here. We already know exactly what he's come across. We know his hand is a fetch and a surgical. Because that can't have changed, so we don't need to do anything interesting here. We'll just Tendrils him. And there we have it.